Hey everyone, RogueGold here, and today we need to talk about the Division 3 because there has been such a high uptick in conversation and discussion surrounding the topic in the recent weeks. Like, I'm no statistician, but if you were to scrub all online forums and chats and whatnot, it has to be in the multi-1,000% increase in conversation recently. I need my buddy Delta to get on that one, but everywhere you look, my video comments, others' videos comments, Reddit, Twitter, etc., everybody is saying it's time for the Division 3. Where is the Division 3? We need the Division 3. To which my first response is, where have you all been at? If you're a longtime viewer around here, you'll know that I've been talking about the Division 3, making Division 3 videos for a long time, going on like 3 years. That Dream for the Division 3 video I made years ago is still one of my most popular videos ever. And now obviously I'm teasing. I'm of course not trying to gatekeep anybody from the discussion, but I do find it funny and somewhat ironic that the interest in a Division 3, and at least interest in discussing it, has increased so dramatically lately. So really, I just want to break all of that down and talk about it today. I think an important place to start though is my own stance on the Division 3 topic. Do I want a Division 3? Yes. Yes, I do. Like I've said, I've been making videos and theories about it for years. Now, an important distinction, I feel, is that my desire for a Division 3 has never been motivated by a disdain or hatred towards the Division 2. Which, some of you may be like, well, yeah, duh. But a lot of the conversation right now is indeed fueled by Division 2 frustrations, we'll say. And for me, and again, I have an entire Division 3 playlist, you can go and look back at years of my thoughts about it, my primary motivations for wanting a Division 3 have always been rooted in my fundamental disagreements with how Division 2 is structured as a game. Now again, that's nothing objectively against the Division 2, I've continued to play and enjoy the game over the years. If I didn't, I wouldn't still be here making videos about it, but I've made it clear, and I've always talked about from the start, that I've had fundamental disagreements with many of the design decisions, and those things aren't, like I said, objectively good or bad. They were always just my opinion. For example, PvP. I think the way that armor and health are structured isn't very conducive to compelling PvP. I've always disagreed with the complete removal of burst healing from the game. I think 3 separate DZs was a mistake. Now, yes, a lot of these criticisms are in comparison to how Division 1 did things. Division 1 is a great game. It remains my favorite game of all time. But let's also not pretend that that game was perfect, because it was not. And I think Division 2 improved on a lot of things in a lot of different categories. Just to name a few: open world interest and dynamics, exotics, PvE variety, enemy design, etc., moment-to-moment gameplay, overall gunplay and movement, a lot of things. So I was never under the illusion that Division 1 was a perfect game in any way, or that Division 2 was absolutely terrible, because it is far, far from that. However, ever since starting to talk about the Division 3 on here, my main reasoning was that I thought that there could be a lot of value in taking the greatest strengths of both the Division 1 and 2 and combining them into a fully next-gen experience. Because yes, Division 2 has been held back by last-gen consoles ever since it released, but we'll circle back to that. Let me now cover some of the recent conversation on the Division 3. Largely, in these recent weeks, people have been clamoring more and more for a Division 3 game because of how Year 4 development of the Division 2 is turning out, with all of the delays and bugs, etc. The reason I said at the start that I find this kind of ironic is because yes, while delays and bugs suck, how is the game any worse now than it was back when they announced it was going to get Year 4 content? I remember plenty of people being super stoked for that and not saying that they would rather just see a Division 3, which, I'm sure some were thinking that back then, but the game is objectively, I would say, better now than it was then. We have more replayability with the countdown mode, more coming soon with Descent, better quality of life features, a far more compelling storyline to follow. Again, not, pointing blame or anything like that. I just think it's funny that these latest development troubles have sparked Division 3 conversation, because frankly, Division has always had development troubles. Let's not kid ourselves here. But yeah, I will say that I think out of these recent conversations, there has been one really good point made that I want to highlight. And credit to the, dozen or more people I've seen who've said this, but it's the idea that just like how a big motivator for Massive to make the Division 2 was to escape, quote unquote, the practically unfixable netcode of Division 1, Division 2 has now gotten to a similar point in many ways, but for different reasons, right? It's not that the code of the game is necessarily flawed, but the people trying to modify it and build upon it were not the same people who made it, and clearly, as the devs have said themselves, the game was not built to continue on this long, or evolve in the ways that it has. Doesn't mean that it's impossible to now do it, but it does mean that there will be bumps in the road, and we've seen that ever since the start of Year 4. So in many ways, I understand and totally agree with people's point that similarly to how Div 2 escaped Div 1, Division 3 is an opportunity for another clean slate. And to loop back to what I was saying a minute ago, for as many improvements as Division 2 made over Division 1, don't be fooled to think that that was its limit. One example that we've been given over the years about how Division 2 was held back by last generation consoles was, like I mentioned a minute ago, the player counts in the DZ. Obviously in Division 1 it was 24, in Division 2 it's 12, and while partly that was by design, designed. Yes, some of what pushed them in that direction was that the increased lighting fidelity and other graphical improvements made to the Snowdrop engine and therefore the Division 2 made it so that that same hardware that was running Division 1, the Xbox One and the PlayStation 4, couldn't handle the new graphics while still rendering 24 players in the same location. It would just lag or crash or whatever the outcome was. Another reason they've stated is the increased character customization. All of the intricate clothing items, tattoos, masks, backpack charms, skins for each individual gear items, those are all great, but it is just more rendering to the hardware that it had to do compared to how our agents were in the Division 1, causing more strain, leading to the necessity for them to decrease the player count. So again, that's just one example, but the overall point is allowing a Division 3 game to be exclusively next-gen could do wonders for the devs' technical and conceptual creativity. They can think and do bigger things because they don't have to go, well, how do we make that work on this hunk of junk from 2013, right? So a clean slate of code, next-gen exclusive possibilities, those alone sound pretty enticing. There is a third incentive though, and that's Ubisoft's chance to finally deliver on the promise of what these live service games are supposed to be all about, and that's content. Now look, Division 1 and 2 each had their own post-launch models. Division 1 opted for the more consistent mid-size updates, bringing us cool new stuff every few months. Division 2 tried to model off of Destiny and go for the yearly expansion model until we got one of them, and then Ubi called it quits, and then changed their minds and now are seasonal only. Bottom line, there has always been inconsistency in terms of the level of dedication and support that Ubisoft has always shown this IP. And in a genre that relies on consistency and support, that can and has been problematic. If they make a fully next-gen Division 3 with a new dedicated team that's in it for the long run and have a plan from the start for a good 3 years of updates and content and expansions planned, and the option for more after that if things go well, you're going to make a lot of players happy and you're going to make a boatload of money. As for the feasibility of all of this, I think a lot of people at this point are just saying that they don't necessarily expect a Division 3, but just wish or question why it wasn't in the books from the start. Well, let's not forget that recent investors call. I'll link it in the top corner if you missed my breakdown on that, but they say, and I'm paraphrasing, that Ubisoft is looking to replicate the same strategic model that Assassin's Creed has just put forward for the Division in the near future. What does that mean? Well, in simple terms, it means throwing a lot of support behind the IP and announcing a shit ton of long-term projects. Obviously, those are just words. We will need to wait and see their actions, but it has been my belief for a long time that we will get a Division 3. I think it won't be for several more years. I think they'll wait for the Star Wars game to wrap up and then reinstate many of the people on that team who came from the Division originally, but the point is, I think the stars are aligned for them to do it right with a solid foundation and with proper long-term support. It's just a question of if and when, but clearly, as is apparent by all of these recent discussions, the interest is there. Will Ubisoft capitalize on it? And I just want to finish off by saying this. My ongoing passion and dedication to this franchise isn't dependent on them doing a Division 3. I still, as I said, continue to love and enjoy the Division 2. I have endless respect for Yannick and the team at Massive that worked to bring the game back from halted production, the work they put in to give us all the stuff we're getting now. And aside from the delays and bugs, I think Year 4 has brought us some of the most compelling and interesting content this game has ever seen. As I mentioned earlier, the story is kick-ass. I really like Countdown. I think Descent is going to be killer as well. The spec rework, as mysterious as it still is, sounds like exactly what this game needs. Year 4 has brought a lot of new ideas and creativity, and I appreciate that. But as a fan of the franchise, evident by the fact that I've been making Division 3 videos for years, I think doing a full clean slate, fully next-gen, multi-year supported Division 3 is going to do far more for Ubisoft and for the Division IP than anything Division could ever do from here on out, simply in terms of revenue and IP interest across the gaming industry. Just how I see it. But regardless of the path that they take down the line, I will continue to play and hopefully enjoy the content that we get for the Division universe. Certainly you all know that I'm stoked for Heartland, and I continue to be interested in where the Division 2 is heading despite the delays, so we will just have to wait and see what's next. And that, my friends, is the state of the Division 3. Thank you all so much for watching. Leave a like if you enjoyed this video, and be sure to subscribe with notifications on so you can be updated every time I upload. Let me know your thoughts on this whole Division 3 conversation. Where do you stand on it? Do you want it to happen? Are you somebody who despises the idea of starting all over again in terms of progression? I know that's a big point of pushback for many. And how do you feel about the Division 2's current outlook? With these more, out there topics like these in these contentious times that we're in, I have to stress and ask for your respect and courtesy towards others in the comments below, whether it be other fans, developers, whoever. We're here to share our thoughts and ideas, not attack people. But yeah, beyond that, super interested to hear your thoughts on this whole debate. And that is going to do it for me today, everybody. Once again, thank you all so much for watching. I hope you have a wonderful day. And until the next one, guys, RogueGold out.